Mumonkan, case number 7, Joshu, wash your bowl. A monk said to Joshu, I have just entered this monastery. Please, master, teach me. Have you eaten your rice porridge yet? Asked Joshu. Yes, I have, replied the monk. Then you had better wash your bowl, said Joshu. With this, the monk gained insight. To give a little more context to this koan, let me provide you with some background about the spiritual path in general. Such a spiritual journey can grossly be divided into 3 stages, and let's label them as stage A, stage B, and stage C. One usually gets started at stage A, and in stage A we identify ourselves with objects. Objects such as sights, sounds, smells, tastes, bodily sensations, feelings, thoughts. All these are being perceived and are referred to as objects. And most people live their usual life fully identified with such objects. One can compare this with a person who stands in front of a mirror and identify only with the reflections that can be seen in this mirror, and completely forgetting that there is a mirror at all. So there is of course a mirror, there is of course a subject aware of all the objects, but this subject is ignored, it is not recognized. So in our spiritual journey, we go from stage A, being only objects, to stage B, and that is called a process of elimination. We thus learn that we are not only these objects, and we allow the subject then to shine by eliminating object by object. So in the Indian Advaita tradition, this process is usually called the neti-neti approach, and in the case of Zen, in the Heart Sutra, we chant no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, which is exactly the same. So for example, we are not the sights surrounding us, we are that which is aware of these sights. We are not the sounds, the smells, the tastes surrounding us, we are that which is aware of all these things. We are not our bodily sensations, our feelings, our thoughts, we are that which is aware of all those things. And the end result of such an elimination process is then what I label stage B. And we remain deprived from all these objects, we remain as still awareness. This is a bit like the transparent background shining. To take back our example of the mirror, we realize we are not only these reflections, we are the mirror itself. Such an experience is often accompanied by joy, peace, and happiness. It is a bit like being in love, but rather than being in love with a person, we are now in love with the whole universe. Or as religious people would term it being in love with God. We, however, also have a tendency to want to share this with others, and we become sometimes overly enthusiastic, wanting to show off our grand achievement. People would say things like, "I'm now enlightened." They say that they have reached a condition similar to this in which Buddha had lived, or similar to that which Jesus had experienced. In other words, we become a little too boastful. But then the journey is not finished. We only went from stage A to stage B. What about stage B to stage C? Rupert Spira, one of my Advaita teachers, was the person who clearly clarified to me that this stage which we talked about before and which is the neti-neti approach is only halfway, and that there is still a second stage in the spiritual journey to get us from B to C. Indeed, the process of neti-neti needs then to be followed up by a process of inclusion. After eliminating all the objects, we need to become one with all the objects. And we do so by examining the relationship we have between aware space, which we have found out in our first stage of the journey, and the objects themselves. So in other words, we return to the objects. The sights, for example, that we have around us, you can see that in this way. I am space of awareness. I can see the room in which I sit, but where is the boundary between space of awareness and the sight of the room? And the same we can do with sound. If you have any sounds that are surrounding you, you can hear the sound of my voice, and you have your space of awareness. Where is the boundary between the space of awareness and the sound? Or smells, tastes, bodily sensations, you can play the same game. Where is the boundary between space of awareness, which we discovered, and all those objects? And also the same for feelings and thoughts. This then finally results in stage C, when we are one with all objects. The reflections in the mirror are still there, but they're no longer separate from the mirror substance. And I'm not talking about a mirror there. I'm talking as you being the mirror. Can you peel off the images and the reflections in the mirror from the mirror substance? No, it's all one. And the other aspect in stage C is that we are no longer feeling a need to make a big deal about it. We seem to return to a more normal life, getting to activities one after the other and not being overly enthusiastic, boastful, or wanting to show off. It is therefore a natural state, but there is nothing special about it. Hence the expression Zen mind is ordinary mind. After this rather long introduction, let us now return to our koan. A monk said to Joshu, "I have just entered this monastery. Please teach me." Well, we already met this Joshu before in our first case of the Mumonkan, Joshu's dog. And to this monk, it may be stated here that he just entered the monastery, but that doesn't mean he's a novice. In fact, in China of the 9th century, it was quite usual for monks to travel from monastery to monastery. And when a monk then would arrive at a monastery, it would not mean that he's a novice. He may already have practiced for many, many years. So he then may have had quite a bit of meditation experience and encountered Joshu in the hallway there. And he asked the question to Joshu, please teach me. That kind of question is not so naive, and it's maybe more like a testing of the water. Let's see what this Joshu is made of. Let's see if he can really be my teacher. The response that came from Joshu is, have you eaten your rice porridge yet? So this Joshu didn't fall for the monk's trap. He didn't start giving a long explanation. My teaching is like this and you will have to do like that. No, he just go back to the now, to the immediate. Have you eaten your porridge? So that is a kind of an answer that comes out of the now, out of spontaneity, which we would have labeled stage C in our introduction. In other words, he's one with the heart and soul of the monk. And being one can only love the other as one loves oneself, because where is the boundary? Yes, I have, replied the monk. Now, this answer, it may be a little short, but since this monk, as we discussed, is probably not a novice, it can be seen as a way to tell Joshu that he understood also the deeper meaning of Joshu's question. He somehow acknowledges the now moment, probably with a big smile, and shows his maturity in doing so. Yes, I have eaten my porridge. However, this answer also has a slight connotation of arrogance. It is a bit too overly enthusiastic. It could also be seen as, yes, I got you, I'm in the now, I'm enlightened. And that would put this monk in stage B, going back to our introduction, showing off, boastful of his condition. Yes, I have eaten. Then the answer from Joshu. Then you had better wash your bowl. Joshu's last sentence is kind of a rebuke. He rejects the monk's enthusiasm contained in his yes answer, and he sends him away to wash his bowl. Indicated to him that there is nothing special about his understanding of the moment, of the now. It is just natural. This may be interpreted as the yes smile of yours is already in the past. Just apply yourself to what's next without any fanfare. And the text continues. With this, the monk gained insight. So he got the even more deeper meaning that Joshu tried to convey with his kind of negative answer. Just stay in the moment and do not have any bells and whistles about it, please. As we try to keep these recordings short, we have skipped Mumon's comment. However, here is the verse. Endeavoring to interpret clearly, you retard your attainment. Don't you know that flame is fire? Your rice has long been cooked. Now, it's true that in the Advaita tradition we like to interpret and explain a little bit more than in the Zen tradition. So to the viewer, I do apologize if my long introduction may have delayed your attainment slightly. And then it says, flame is fire. That is like saying, the mirror and its reflections in it are one. You cannot peel the reflections out of the mirror, and in the same way, you cannot distinguish a difference between the flame and the fire. And when you experience this kind of oneness, you would also be able to respond to Joshu with spontaneity, yet without arrogance about me. When he asks you a question about rice porridge. So, when you experience things this way, your rice has long been cooked. There is no need anymore to strain yourselves, make efforts, or to boast. You are ready, it. So, after this video today, please learn from Master Joshu and carry out your daily activity with love, yet without fanfare. Just enjoy them and be one with them, yet with simplicity. Zen mind is ordinary mind. Thank you very much.